or Friday morning. So today after school, Thursday after school, or Friday morning. Those are your options if you're missing the quest. So one of those should work. If you're going to do it Friday morning, you can come in at 7:45. Remember, this is just a quest. It isn't like a full-fledged test. Okay, so having said all of that, let's hear it. What do we have in terms of questions?
Is it just for
No, it's anything.
Oh.
Any problems that we want to do. So just hang on a second here. I'll have to pass this out. Pass out some homework. You know most everyone knows that. Hand them out. Quickly, get off your back and let's go.
Let's go. Come on the
Hand them
hop.
out. We have more things to ask about. Is it an emergency? Go ahead. We are reviewing.
It's my own homework. Gregory? Do you know what writing it again?
They're always posting Schoology also. And again, back there. Okay, all right, so who's got the first review question? Here we go.
Number one
On the review? All right, number one on the review, we have a piece of paper that is 22 by 14. We are going to cut out the corners. And what size do the corners need to be in order to have at least 2,000 tenths? We want the volume to be greater than or equal to 2,000 or 210 square inches, right? So what is the volume of our box? Okay, look on the floor. Did you look at the box on the floor? There should be. Okay, so how do we find volume of the box?
base times width times height.
So length times width times height, yeah, whatever, length times width times height. So I'm gonna look at this situation. And the original length of my paper was 22. But now, what did I do? I chopped away a couple of x's. So 22 minus 2x for the length. Same thing with the width, right? And then the height, remember you're folding these up, so the height is just x. That's the volume. And we need the volume to be more than or greater than or equal to 210. So we're going to go to our calculator and we're going to think about this before we just start typing and graphing and saying, I don't see anything. Think about the situation. In your window, what are your possible x's? In this problem, what is the smallest x? 0. What is the biggest x? 7. Remember, we're taking a piece off both sides of 14. Isn't 7 the biggest we could do? All right, now, y's. What is the minimum y? Y was your volume. Remember, when you typed in your equation, this was volume. So what's the minimum volume? 0. Now, what's the maximum volume? We don't know, but it has to be something bigger than 210, right? So, I don't know. Let's try 250. All right. Now, I'm going to clear out my old equations and type in 22 minus 2x, 14 minus 2x, and x. So this is gonna be one equation, and then 210 will be the other one. And when I hit graph, what I need to see, I'll show you what I do see, is this and this. And that's what I need to see, right? Where do they equal? And then I know that everything in between those, the volume will actually be more than 210. Here's where it's exactly 210. That's where it's going to be more than. So I'm going to find those points of intersection. So second, calc, intersect. Remember, if you can't see your cursor right off the bat, it tells you where it is on the screen, so you just keep moving till it comes into view. And I got, for this point, 0.839. And then I do it again. So second, calc, intersect. And I'm going to find that point over there. And that one I got 5.261. How do those numbers sound to everybody? Good?
You want us to go into the thousands?
Yeah. So, what do I put in the answer blanks? What is the actual answer to the question? Remember, the question was, what size corner should be cut to yield a volume of at least 210? So don't I need everything in between them? So 0.839, 5.261 with brackets, that's everything in between those two numbers, including them, because it says at least. Okay? All right, what else? What other questions do we have? From homework, review, notes, quiz, I don't care anywhere. Yes? Number 3 on the review.
Do we need to have that formula memorized?
No. A building was purchased 8 years ago for $137,500. This year it's 2. Find a linear equation that represents the value of the building X years after purchase. So the initial purchase after 0 years was this. And then 8 years later, it was this. So I have taken my information and I've just created a couple of points. X years after purchase. So X is the years after purchase. So the original price and 8 years later, that price. My job is to write a linear equation. How do I write equations of lines? What do I need to know? I need to know the slope. So the slope is going to be whatever that is.
35, that's what is over
So, decimally speaking, it's that. You could also write that as a fraction, leave it as a fraction, but I went ahead and did a decimal and came out as that's my slope. Now it turns out, this point right here is kind of special, because what is that? When X is 0, we've got the y-intercept. So our equation is just negative 4437.5 x plus 137.5. Right? A linear equation that represents the value of the building. That's it right there. What will the building be worth 13 years after it was purchased? What do I do now to find that value? Plug in 13, and 13 is going to go in for the x. Let's figure it out. Does it make sense if that slope is negative?
Yes,
Why?
because it's going down the,
Yeah, the value of the house is decreasing.
yes,
So
back in 2008.
our change in value is negative. Our rate of change is negative. All right, good. Who else? What else? What do we got here? Let's go.
On the second homework.
We can do any homework.
Okay, I was really confused on number 2. I might
On
have
which
just
homework?
on homework part A. I might have just been because I kept putting it in my calculator wrong, like to graph. I was just really confused.
Okay, so we're solving graphically, which basically is what we just did right there. We are finding where these things cross each other. And I've given you a hint down there because we haven't done much, we haven't done any graphing trigonometrically. So I told you, you gotta use radian mode and a standard window. So I'm gonna go back and do that right now. So I'm gonna zoom 6. And I'm gonna go to mode and change my calculator into radians of the radians. Okay? Now I need to put in 2 equations. So one of them is just ready, so 3 cosine x. Now this one's not quite ready to put in the calculator, so I'm going to add the y over and subtract the 1. So there's my second equation, 2x minus 1. And now when I hit graph, I see my nice little cosine curve. And I see a line going right up through it. Do you see that? So we are looking for the point of intersection. So second calc, we're going to have to pay attention to intersect. Got my left bound. Now move that to my right bound. And my point of intersection is 1.134, 1.268. Does that sound right?
I don't.
Okay, who else? What else do we got?
Problem 2 on P7.
P7. Okay, this is exactly the same thing that I'm erasing that we did here. We've got 2 equations basically. So we've got 2x cubed plus 2x, and we have 5. Now, you could do this by subtracting the 5 over. Would you rather do that, or would you rather use the separate equations? It doesn't matter.
Let's do them separate.
Okay, so we're gonna do them separate. So I'm gonna go to my calculator. I can't remember, so I'm gonna zoom 6, I'm good. I'm gonna type in 2x cubed plus 2x, and then I'm gonna type in 5. And hit graph. Now, what I get is kind of my classic QB shape like that, and then we'll see it comes to y equals 5. Now, the problem says that we want the QB thing to be greater than 5. So right here is where they are equal. All of this is where the cube is bigger than 5. So I need to find that point of intersection just like before. And then anything after that will be the answer. So they are equal at the point 1.115. That's where they are exactly equal. So any x value past that will produce a value bigger than 5, higher than 5. If you move that 5 over and graph just one equation on your calculator, then you would be looking for, where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, what else? Who else? Something else? Let's go. Something else.
Number 1, P8 homework.
P8. 1. Solve algebraically. So algebraically means no calculator. That means there's certain work that has to be shown. So our equations are 2x squared plus x and 2x plus y equals 20. So if I'm doing this without a calculator, then probably, what, I'm going to substitute or eliminate or something? Yeah, I can substitute. Like, how do you want me to substitute? What do you want me to substitute?
Like 2x squared.
Put that right here? I can. So 2x plus 2x squared plus x equals 20, because this right here is your y. So now I've got 2x squared plus 3x minus 20 equals 0. Now that's a quadratic. So what are your options with a quadratic? You can use the formula, you can factor, if it factors, and you can complete the square. Now I think this one does factor.
5 and 4.
Plus 5 minus 4.
No. Minus 5 and plus 5.
Plus 5. Plus 5. No,
No,
plus
you're
4.
good.
Is that better? That's 8 minus 5, 3. Is that okay? So that means my x coordinates, remember, even though we're doing it by hand, we're really looking for where they intersect. So we're looking for points. So my x's are -4 and 5/2. So I would go back to this equation right here. I think this is going to be easier than that one to figure out my y's. So since y equals 20 minus 2x, if I put in -4, I'm going to get 28. And if I put in 5/2, I'm going to get 15. So there are the points of intersection.
Are there no calculator sections on this one?
Well, and when it says solve algebraically, that means this work has to be shown. Now, you know, if you had a calculator and you did arithmetic, okay, that's different. But the work has to be shown. Algebraically, don't use a calculator. All right, what else?
Can we go number 5 on the review?
Review number 5.
That is a good question. Good question.
Given -2,6 and 8,4, write the equation of the perpendicular bisector of line AB. So here's AB, and I want to write the equation of this line. So let's pause for a moment. What does it take to write the equation of a line? What do you have to have?
Slope.
You gotta have a slope, and you gotta have a point. Now, I am writing the equation of this line. There's gonna be my point. I'm not using A and B because they're not on my line. But that point, I don't know what it is, except if this is a bisector, that has to be the midpoint. So how do I find midpoint? I average. So -2 plus 8 is 6, divided by 2 is 3, I'm averaging. 6 and 4 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. So my point is 3, 5. Would you agree with that? Why do I look like I'm having a whole row after?
There's an extra.
How did that happen? I don't know. But anyway, we got it figured out. You guys got it figured out better than me. I didn't notice that till now. Everybody's good? Okay. All right. So, so I have my point. Now I need my slope. Well, I have no idea what this slope is, but if it's perpendicular to AB, then it would be the opposite reciprocal of AB's slope. So let's find the slope of AB. So slope is y minus y over x minus x. So that's 2 negative 1/5. So what's the slope of the line I am writing? 5, the opposite reciprocal. So my slope is 5, so y minus 5 equals, that's this 5, equals 5 times x minus 3. Now, does the problem tell me? Doesn't tell me how to write the equation of my line. So, is that all right? Perfectly fine. You could also, if you preferred, you could add the 5 over and get 5x minus 10. So either one of these would be perfectly okay.
You will have the velocity equation form.
The projectile motion forms right now. Okay, what else? Let's go. Come on. Don't want to waste a single second. All right, let's go with Catherine.
Can you do 4 on the review?
4 on the review. This is my projectile motion problem. So, general formula. Alright, so what have I got in this problem? It's thrown from the top of a building 24 feet tall. So where does the 24 go?
The D.
No. This is the initial height. Kids, I'm giving you the formula, but if you don't know what those things mean, it's not gonna help. Go back and study what those mean. This is the initial height, so that's gonna be your 24. With an initial velocity of 100 feet per second, where does 100 go? That is your initial velocity, so it goes right here. So this is your equation that you're gonna use for this particular problem. That's your general formula. This is for this specific problem. When will the height above the ground be at least 50 feet? Now remember, this is the height above the ground. So you got an object, you're throwing it up in the air. So I mean, I don't know. Okay, there it is. And someplace is 50. So these are the 2 points that it is 50 feet above the ground. All right, so I need to find those points. So I'm going to put in clear out the old equations. Put in negative 16 x squared plus 100x plus 24. And then my second equation is 50. Now, that means that I have to go to my window, right? And what does my y max have to be? Something more than 50, so maybe 70. Hit graph. Now, it doesn't look quite as neat as this does, but can you envision that there's a point over here and there's a point over here? So your job is to find those 2 points. Now, if you don't like the way the picture looks, then you might go back to your window and make x min 0. Here's the deal. X is time. So should I really be looking at anything over here? Now, it doesn't hurt anything to leave it in the picture, but if you want to open your picture up a little bit, you can do that. All right, so let's find those 2 points. So second, calc, intersect. Again, if you don't know where your cursor is, watch it on the screen. The numbers are there, the coordinates are there. Eventually, it'll come in if you just keep pressing. I got 0.272. Anybody else get that?
Yeah.
And then you've already got the other one probably, I don't. I got, 5.978. Now, what are those two numbers? Those two numbers are exactly where it's 50 feet, but our question says at least 50 feet. So I can count those 2 points, but don't I want to count everything here too? So that'll be another one of these bracket things. Like that. So that's the answer to A. Okay? So now B. When will the object hit the ground? Well, look at the picture on your screen. Just go back to your picture. Isn't this where the object hits the ground? Right there? So now we gotta find that point. But we will second calc 0 this time. You can do intersect, but since you're with the x-axis, you might as well just do 0. And we're gonna set our okay, did you get 6.481? Now, I want you to look at that y coordinate. I don't know what happened for you, but if we're here, that y coordinate should be 0, right? On my calculator, it says -1, e, -11. Anybody else get anything like that, or is that just mine? Okay. Here's the deal. That's scientific notation. That means times 10 to the -11th. Tell me about that number. 10 to the -11th. Very, very small. So this is, there's some round off there. Your calculator does everything logarithmically, so there's a little bit of round off there. This can be interpreted as 0. That's just 0. So that's gonna happen from time to time. I don't quite understand why it happens to only some and not all, but when it happens, think of it as 0. Don't be confused by it, it's a 0, okay? And that's it.
Can we write that with brackets or?
There it says, when will the ball hit the ground? The ball hits the ground at t equals this many seconds. We don't even care about the y coordinate, because we want to know when it's gonna hit the ground.
And there's no other one because you started with a,
Well, if there would be another one, yeah, it would be back here.
but there isn't a phone.
Well, no, because the ball doesn't, first of all, that's negative time, so that can't be counted. Yep,
Can we do review problem 6?
huh?
Review problem 6?
Yep, review 6, find n, so that the line through this has a slope of -3/11. All right, how do we find slope? Yep, so my points are -112 and 5n. So n minus 12 over 5 minus -1, that's my slope. And my slope has to equal -3/11. Y minus y over x minus x has to equal -3/11. So n minus 12 over 6 equals -3/11, cross multiply. So 11n minus, is that 132, equals -18. My grade school teacher would be so disappointed because we had to memorize our 11s. Yeah. So I'm gonna add 132 to both sides, and that's gonna give me 114. And divide by 11. So 114 over 11 is the answer to the question if I did my arithmetic right. Okay, Sarah? All right, Jack,
You do 8D.
on the review sheet.
Yeah.
8D, solve, insert interval notation when appropriate. And I didn't write it, but everything on this page is no calculator. So this will be no calculator on this page.
On the back page.
Number 8, all of number 8 is no calculator. So we need to solve this one algebraically. And you need to be, the directions may not say no calculator, they'll say solve algebraically. That means no calculator, that means use algebra, okay? So here we go, what's our thought on this?
Can I get the x's together?
Definitely need to get a 0.
And then can I factor out an x?
And then you can factor out an x,
Then can I take the difference of squares?
and then we have the difference of squares. Jack, are you following all this? Rock's kind of rolling through it. We gotta get it set equal to 0. Factor out your GCF. And then you're left with the difference of squares, which factors into x plus x minus. So then I go to my handy dandy number line. And I'm gonna have dots on my number line, 3 of them, because the problem is x cubed. Every x has a dot, which is that under normal circumstances. And where will the dots be? -1, 0, and 1, right? And something on there is going to be shaded. I just had to figure out what. So how do I do that? How do I figure out what's shaded? Pick a number. So it can't be these, but any other number is fine. So if you put like 2, make your life easy. Don't pick fractions, for Pete's sake. Pick 2. And if I put in 2 for all the x's, I have 2 times 3 times 1, which is 6. Is 6 bigger than 0?
Yes.
Yes, which means that the number 2 is part of the solution. All of these are part of the solution. Wherever 2 is on the number line, works. Now, shortcut, since I have exactly the same number of dots as I do degree, 3 dots, these have a normal problem, this is normal. Abnormal would be something like this, because now you have x cubed, but you only have 2 dots. That would be abnormal. As long as it's a normal problem, the shading is always going to alternate. So as soon as I figured out that that is shaded, this isn't, this is, this isn't. Now, if that confuses you, you forget that or whatever, you know how we tried 2 to determine if that's shaded? You could try this number, and this number, and always figure it out that way. So, those are open dots. So Jack, -1, 0, or 1 to infinity is my answer to my question. One?
What are the numbers that you plugged into like the original
You
equation?
absolutely can.
Okay.
You absolutely can. Yep. Yep, any of those, right there. You can plug it in. Okay, who else?
P5, problem 5.
P5.
No.
Here it is, P5.
Especially if I did it yesterday. I'm just kidding. It's like,
Now this is another calculator problem. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back. I have no idea. I'm gonna zoom 6 and make sure I got a standard window. And then I'm gonna type in that equation. So x cubed plus x squared plus 2x minus 3 graph. I get something that looks which is set equal to 0, so I'm looking for that point right there. So, second calc 0, left bound, right bound. Looks like that point is 0.844. And that's approximate because I'm rounding it off. But solving that, the answer is 0.844. Now, does that bother anybody? It could be in your head, you're thinking, wait a second, this is an x cubed. How many roots does an x cubed have? 3. The degree matches the number of roots. Okay, always. However, the roots might be imaginary. So I think in this case, you only have one real root. Now, if you're really concerned about it, how could you check? Make your window bigger and then see what happens. It's not gonna happen, but potentially what could happen is, at some point, it could like come back down and get back up. I don't think it's going to, but you could double check that if you're concerned about it, okay?
How does like the equal 0, how do we know that that means we're looking for the dot on the x-axis?
Okay, what do we know about, if we're on the x-axis, don't we know that every point is something comma 0?
Oh yeah, so there's no y.
Yeah, well, there is, but it's y equals 0. So if you wanted to do it with intersections, you could type in a second equation, but it would be y equals 0, which is the x-axis. So you'd be looking for the intersection of your curve and the x-axis, right? Okay, Sarah?
Review 11C.
Miss Ford.
All right,
So, could this also be solved by moving the 3 over and making 2 equations? Like, that would also be a viable way to solve this?
yep. Or you could move whatever you want to do. So you could move these two here and move all those over. Do intersections, absolutely.
Would that still be the one that's done?
Yep. So an intersection one spot. Yep. The method of solution does not impact the answer. The answer is the answer, no matter how you do it.
What cube equations look like to have multiple answers?
I don't know, it has to be a special combination at first. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but cube equations can look like this. They have 3 points of intersection. But they can also have 2 imaginary roots which aren't going to show up. And this must be that. All right, which one am I doing, Sarah? I forgot.
11C.
11C. Okay, so I am simplifying.
But I get about 3, 4.
Okay, and in my simplifying, I'm just gonna do this one first, one parentheses at a time. There are several things that have to get done, but the order you do them in this problem does not matter. So if you do things in a different order, that's okay. Personally, I always simplify my parentheses first. So I don't even worry about all that. I just look inside the parentheses. 3 and 4 I can't do anything with. My A's, however, can reduce, cancel. So I have an extra A on the bottom. I have 2 extra B's on the top, and I have a C on the top. So at some point, you're going to need to combine your A's, B's, and C's, but you don't have to do it first. I do it first. All right? Now, I see that negative right there. What does that negative tell me? The whole shebang is going to flip. And when it flips, the exponent will become positive. So now I can distribute my exponent, and I get 16a squared over 9 b to the 4th c squared. So that is my first fraction. I still have to do the rest of the problem. Okay, everybody still hanging in there? All right, I'm gonna do the same series of steps. This guy. Except, I'm not gonna have to flip this one because his exponent is positive.
Why isn't the c squared? Oh wait, no, never mind. How is it?
Okay. So now, I'm gonna simplify in here first. So my 5 and my 6, nothing happens to. Now, pay attention, see this guy right here?
Really ask the question.
He's going up, so I'm gonna have 8 to the 6 on the top. Some of you might think about it as 2 minus -4. There'll be 6 of them. This guy is coming down, so I'm gonna have b to the 4th on the bottom, because there's already a b down there, and 3 more are coming down. And that is what's getting squared. So, this is gonna be times 25, a to the 12, 36, b to the 8. All right, Sarah, you still with me? So now I gotta start putting more things together. So it looks like I'm gonna have a to the 14th on the top, b to the 12th, and c squared. When I start combining my things. Now these numbers are kind of crazy. Remember, it's a multiplication, so we could cross cancel. So maybe take a 4 out of that and that. I think that's it. So I have 100 over 81 as my final answer.
The very back page.
Okay, am I done with this now? Are you okay with that? Are you okay? Okay.
On the very back page, can you start calculating
For what? It says solve by graphing. It says solve algebraically. There's no calculator for any of that. Where you use a calculator. Well, you can do arithmetic on a calculator.
Okay, just not like.
Right. Jack?
Can you do 11D?
11D.
That's a good one.
And I don't think actually you need to do 11 times 3 or 18 times 3. It's a stretch.
Didn't you just say that 11s are hard?
But I figured it out.
Times 3 is 30.
All right, here we go. Jack, we gotta take care of these first. Absolutely, we gotta take care of the eyes. So out are coming the eyes. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and make the square root of 4 just 2. Is that okay? So now how many eyes do I have? I have 1, 2, I have I cubed. And then I have times 2 root 18, 6 times 3. Now what's I cubed?
1.
Negative I, that's exactly what it is, because I squared is -1, and you got an extra one, so this is negative I. And what about the square root of 18?
3 square root
3 square root 2.
6.
So I'm gonna end up with 6, negative 6, I root 2 as my answer. Now this is the way, like, typically it's written, but if you had those numbers in a different order, it wouldn't matter. But that's the way it is.
Do you want us to write it like that?
That's the normal way of writing it, but I just said, if you have a different number, that's the way it's traditionally.
You're gonna count if we have interval notations wrong, like how I got those,
Yep,
that'll
if
be
you
wrong.
screwed up your intervals, you're wrong. Yep, partially.
You're gonna fail.
You literally corrected me.
Why would I do that? Okay, so what you're asking me, Emily, so what you're asking me is, I saw my problem, and I get an answer of 25. But I don't like 25, so I'm just gonna take the square root of it and make it 5. No. The only time we would square root it is if we had another exponent in there to the 1/2 power. That would square root. Otherwise, you leave it alone. Okay? All right, what else? We got time for a couple more. Quickly, a couple more.
Can we go over the number 9? Like just the irrational numbers? 3i is not irrational. It's
Number
not.
9A says list the natural numbers. The only natural numbers in that list are what? 6
Is 6 roots of 16?
and 4.
Because
The square root of 16 is 4. So 6 and the square root of 16 are natural numbers. Those are the only two. Now, which ones are irrational?
square root of 10.
Square root of 10, and that's the only one.
Because I is natural.
I is complex, it's not real. To be irrational, you have to be real. And it's not. So square root of 10 is the only irrational number on the list. All right, come on. Don't waste time, we're reviewing.
What did you do before? I told you this is the first time. I wasn't wrong when I
Yeah, the way I'm gonna do 8B may or may not be the way you're gonna do 8B. I mean, how you do it doesn't matter to me, we're not using calculators, but, I'm gonna think of it as a distance, so I'm gonna divide everything by 4. So it says the distance between some number and 3/4 is more than 5/4. So here's 3/4 on the number line. I'm gonna count out and back 5/4. The distance is 5/4. So 3/4 plus 5/4 would be 2. 3/4 minus 5/4 would be negative 1/2, negative 2/4. It's greater than or equal to, so I'm going to close in the dots. And I want the distance to be more than 5/4. So the numbers have to be out here or back here. So negative infinity to negative 1/2. Or okay, one more, guys. Let's go. One more. Here we go. What do we got?
Let's do 8f.
8F.
Multiply by 6 both sides, right?
I would.
Sounds like we don't really need to do it, because you already know.
I multiply by 6. And then, since I only have one x in the problem, I think I'll just get it by itself. So I'll divide by, or subtract 5. And divide by 4. Now, you can't always do that. You have to be able to get 1x in the problem, and we only had 1, so that was easy. So my interval is negative 11/4.
How would you know when you can't do that?
When the other x is in the problem.
Like suppose 12, then you
There's no way to get 1x in the problem. You can't combine all those in one.
better than this.
No, you would have to separate them into 2 inequalities.
Oh,
You would have to solve this inequality and this inequality. Look for where they cross. Jack?
You do 8E.
8E. I'm gonna go ahead and subtract, or add that 36 to the other side. And I'm gonna see if the factors are all pluses. So let's see. Yeah, 9 and 4. So I'm gonna draw my number line, and I'm gonna have negative 4/3 and negative not like that. -9 and -4/3. And I'll color in my dots. And now I have to figure out where to shade. So I'll pick a number.
I picked -2.
-2, so you pick the number in here. So -2 is gonna give you a negative, actually, -2 here. And then -2 times 7 is -2 times 7 less than 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you shade where -2 is, and that's your answer. So I'm not sure what you did wrong, because sounds like you did everything right.
Yeah.
Oh, just keep going on, okay. All right, so tomorrow is quest day again, those of you who are gonna be here. Keep in mind that life is going on. I don't know how many days you're missing, but make sure you're caught up.